Mozambican officials have started work on some of the damaged road infrastructure in order to ensure movement of goods and people. Several parts of the country remain inaccessible due to floods and damaged roads. At the same time, today marks it exactly a week since South African politician Andile Mngwevu and 3 others went missing in Mozambique. The vehicle they were traveling to was swept away during the floods. Malungelo Booi is in Mozambique. About 100 people have been confirmed dead and many more still missing. Malu, good evening to you, and not such a great evening where you are, as that death toll seems to continue to rise.
That's right, Masa. The situation on the ground in Mozambique is extraordinary, especially when you're up in the air and also drive around. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to follow the South African National Defence Force as they were busy with their search and rescue mission in several communities here in Mozambique. We flew over Masia and as well as Chokwe, and over where we actually are, we saw the devastation. We saw the desperate situation on the ground, Masa. A number of people's homes still submerged in water. In fact, we also saw that there were still people that were on top of their roofs seeking help from officials. But there were also moments that left me as a South African with goosebumps, Masa, when I saw the South African soldiers working with their Mozambican counterparts, where they were rescuing a lot of people that had been stuck in one of the communities here, and you could see around them there was just water everywhere. And the majority of those people that were rescued yesterday that we saw were women and children that were taken to the place of safety. And of course, Masa, the United Nations here says over 600,000 people have been affected by floods, and about 60,000 of those people are currently being kept in shelters, including schools, Masa, and churches.
You know, Mali, what you're describing is absolute devastation. Any idea as to how long the rescue missions will also continue as the sun sets and we go into nighttime?
Look, the authorities here are clear, Masa, is that they'll try and search for the missing people as long as it takes, you know what I mean? They're not giving up, and the idea there is to make sure that they assist people who lost their loved ones to find closure. And I also believe, though, with my interaction with many people here that still have, you know, the missing loved one, is that there is a realization that there's a possibility that their loved ones will be found dead. But that will also depend, though, finding missing people will also depend on the water levels, right? You can see where we are that the water levels are still very high, but in some areas the water levels are starting to recede. Now, what we are hearing is also that when the water levels start to dry up, that's when then some of the bodies will start to emerge, and that's when then people will begin, that's when then officials will then collect those bodies and, you know, call people to come and identify their loved ones. It's a very difficult situation, really, for the people here. But also what I want to point out, Masa, is that we are on the N1, right? This road is critical for this country's economy, right? It's critical for the movement of goods. It's critical for the movement of people. In fact, it connects about 9 provinces in the north that have been completely cut off from Maputo, the capital. But I also need to say that this road connects Mozambique to other SADC countries, including South Africa, Swaziland, and Zimbabwe. But this is what we've been seeing over the past few hours, right? You see the people that are using those ferries to cross. It's people that are coming from the other villages. They would normally use the road that has been cut off. Now they're using the ferries to cross, and we know that many people actually, Masa, have been stuck. And we saw people carrying, you can see that the other people have a bag there, meaning that they're actually going back to work. We know that there were people that were in taxis that were coming from South Africa that were sleeping in a taxi for about since Monday, because that taxi could not move because the road is closed. So what we're seeing now is that officials in Mozambique are starting then to do some work on some of the roads that have either been damaged or washed away in these floods. In fact, Masa, the government here says about 5,000 kilometers of the road network in this country has either been damaged or washed away in the floods. And they're going to need a lot of help, Masa, to be able to rebuild the infrastructure, which is actually vital for this country's economy. But I also want to touch on something, Masa. Officials here have said that these floods had in fact affected or covered about 200,000 hectares of land, right? And those hectares of land includes farmlands, right? Including grazing land, including people's homes. But I want to touch on the farms that have been destroyed, right? We know that 70% of this country's population, their livelihood depend on farming, right? And 80% of those people are women and children, and their livelihoods has essentially been turned upside down. There is no doubt, Masa, that what we're seeing here in Mozambique, the destruction to the infrastructure and the destruction to people's livelihoods, and also the destruction to economic activity, including farming, will essentially affect the economy of this country. It will also affect food security. In fact, there was someone that we had a conversation with, Masa, earlier on, who was saying that the food prices are definitely going to go up.
Malungelo Booi, thank you so much for that detailed report. Is going to be, of course, it's a very sad state of affairs in Mozambique.